From what I can gather, Avicity on the AIO3 Discord was the first to try the Gummyworm mod. It caught on pretty quickly, and I'd like to test and review it here with both brass and polycarbonate plates. Timestamps in the description for the typing tests if you're only interested in sound, but stay tuned for a review as well, especially if you're interested in how it changes feel. Before that, this video was brought to you by the Cute Keys shirt and sticker, now available on my Redbubble store. I know the shipping is kind of brutal, so only buy it if you like it. I'll have more designs in the future. My channel has always been free of sponsors from the keyboard industry and even corporate donations in order to reduce conflicts of interest. Your support allows me to improve quality going forward. Right now I'm working towards a better mic to improve these kinds of comparative typing tests. There are a variety of mounting mechanisms that use O-rings like this, but this is essentially wrapping it around the space between the plate and the PCB, resting it on the bottom case and not using the top mount screws. This is very similar to the setup on the E6.5. The resulting assembly is a sandwich where the rubber band fills the gap between the bottom case and the plate. The rationale here is that the band is a squishy material and therefore will have more flex. This is true to some extent, but we'll get into that later. The original mod called for 280mm outer diameter by 3.5mm cross-section from a random source on AliExpress. Because this is not an application where liquid or air tightness is critical, I just decided to get cordstock and make my own. I got three varieties, Buna N50 and 70 add shore harnesses of 50A and 70A respectively, as well as silicone cordstock rated at 40A. These were all 3.53mm cross-section. After some preliminary testing, I found that the 70A O-ring made practically no difference to the sound or feel. The 50A and 40A did make a difference, but the difference between the two is very small. For reference, I'll include all three tests for the brass plate, but I'll only use the 40A for the polycarbonate tests as well as the reviews. To get an O-ring about 280mm in diameter, I just calculated the circumference, which came out to about 880mm, cut the stock and bonded it at the ends. The Buna end stuff works well with an adhesive, while the silicone is super hard to bond, so I just went ahead and stapled them together. In that regard, my mod is not an exact reproduction of the original, but I hope you can see that it is a close enough implementation. I'll be testing this with both brass and polycarbonate full plates in the aluminum housing. My recording setup is detailed in the description. Let's start with all three harnesses on the brass plate. You can come to your own conclusions regarding sound, but I perceive almost no difference between the stock and 70A, while the 50A and 40A sound a little different. They maybe have less case noise. In terms of feel, the experience is not as changed as you might have hoped. It's no secret that brass has a harsh bottom out, and clearly adding a strip of rubber doesn't change that. However, I do perceive the bottom out to be a little softer, but not like softer plate materials. I don't have any way to test this, but I'm guessing maybe the entire PCB plate assembly has some room to move up and down, with some shock getting absorbed by the squishy material. Another property I look for is how the vibrations are transferred between the hands when one is resting while the other is typing. For a brass plate, the 8X Mark II has some amount of it, which is entirely eliminated by the Gummyworm. I don't feel anything even when I'm pressing space. Maybe that's the shock absorption in action. This leads me to think that flex or bounce as we talk about it has at least two dimensions, one in plate material hardness and one in mounting mechanism hardness. This mod tells us that for this case, a softer mounting mechanism means muted vibrations and isolated sound, all while keeping the harsh bottom out on individual keystrokes. Let's now move on to the polycarbonate tests. Again, you should come to your own conclusion on sound, but my interpretation is that the Gummyworm version almost sounds like it's got foam in it. There's much less case noise, and some of the higher pitched ping-like sounds were eliminated. I'd go as far as to say that the difference in sound with a polycarbonate plate is more noticeable than the brass. The feel is largely the same story as the brass. The bottom-out feel on the individual keys remain the same, but there are much less vibrations throughout. Because I'm so used to these vibrations being present on polycarbonate plates, it's a little unsettling to use the Gummyworm version. Other than that, there aren't much sweeping changes to the typing experience. It's just slightly different. There's a good amount of hype around putting rubber on keyboards not designed for them as if gasket is some kind of magic, but it isn't. As always, the change is small. Even so, it is different, and it's maybe even noticeable when you're looking for it. I guess if you got a brass plate and no access to other materials, this will help. To that end, adding a 40A Gummyworm to a brass plate will get you about 40% of the way there to a polycarbonate plate. Or to put it differently, this mod, while it seems exotic and exciting, does much less than just changing your plate material. Just to address it before it comes up, I use stock Getaranyolos because I don't think I can apply loop consistently to the around 2000 switches that I use. In this case, some of the differences from the gasket might be drowned out by the switch noise, but I think that just re-emphasizes how small of a difference we're talking about here. I know there's been some demonstrations of flex by pushing down on the assembly, but these are largely not representative of real typing scenarios. I would know, I use that in my past videos a lot. So if you want a marginally softer bottom out and eliminate internal vibrations, I guess there's no real downside to doing this mod since it's $20 tops, but just have appropriate expectations. I should also add that the conclusions reached in this video should not be generalized because there's a lot of different ways to use this kind of Gummyworm that could indeed lead to drastic differences. This is for the 8X Mark II only.